Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
Well, good morning and a jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, and we are not live as always, but we are broadcasting from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, and the day after Independence Day. This is a recording, but we do have a award-winning author this morning in the form of Amanda J, the other one. Very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Faraz. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have the person who's won the Fairway National Literary Award.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful having an award-winning author here.
Wow, I'm really not used to being called that. I was a massive surprise to me. I was not expecting to win. The other shortlisted books in my category were fantastic, especially Song of the Sun God by Shanghari Chandran.
Oh, she was here as well?
Yes, she was, and her book was beautiful. I read it just before I went in for the award, and when I met her, I said, I'm certain you're going to get it. So when I realized that it was actually me, it was just a huge shock. I could not believe it. It still hasn't quite sunk in.
So you were there, obviously, in Gaul, when the announcement was made.
Sure, there was an award ceremony, and
right. Did you? The moment you knew, was that like in private they told you, or was it at this ceremony?
It was at the ceremony.
So you had no idea?
I had no idea.
So therefore, can you tell me, how did you feel that moment that they said Amanda J?
Well, it didn't quite work out that way. So I was sitting by myself in the authors section. My husband and our brothers were, sitting sort of at the back.
Right.
And I was sitting next to Shankari, actually.
Right.
And so she and I were just chatting and pretty relaxed. And they started off by listing out the runners-up.
Right.
And they would list it out and actually give some very good constructive criticism on the book.
Right.
So they started off, with the third runner-up, and then they said something to the lines of the next two books dealt with historical fiction.
Right.
And so that was the moment where I was like, hang on, my book didn't deal with historical fiction.
So you thought, right, I'm lost now.
No, so that's when I realized, okay, it's probably not a runner-up.
Okay.
So I was just, but you don't want to think, you don't want to sort of assume that you've got it.
Yeah.
And so, my heart's just racing in my chest. I was sneaking a few glances back at my husband, trying to make sense of it. And then finally they say, okay, the winner, and then they don't announce it. They just give you a synopsis of the book and their feedback and things like that. And that whole time I was going, no, it's some other entry that sounds a lot like my book has definitely got it. It's definitely not me. But then they announced it, and it was just completely surreal. It still hasn't sunk in for me, so yeah, it's pretty exciting.
And then what does the award mean to you?
For me, it means a lot. I'm writing in a genre that isn't typically written in Sri Lanka. I self-published. So I had this book out there, and I had no idea if it was even any good. Of course, my family and friends who had read it were very complimentary, but family and friends are always complimentary. So I had this nagging suspicion in my mind. I was like, I've just lucked into this. I've written a book, and everyone's being very nice about it, but that's it. But especially because I self-published.
Right.
Winning an award like that, like this, gives me a lot of credibility and the ability to sort of, take it out into the world and maybe try and market it a little bit more. So
winning this title, does this now mean that you simply must write another one?
Another one.
Yeah. Which is the name of the book.
So that's the running joke right now, that it'll be called another one or the second one.
Yeah.
I started working on the second one probably about 2 months ago.
Right.
And I'm hoping if I could have the first draft out by the end of this year, I'll be very, very happy. So,
are there any authors that you are they like your? Do you have any mentors?
Do I have any mentors? Do you mean locally or?
Anywhere. Who inspires you to write this book?
Well, I've always been a big reader.
Right.
I've been one of those, really nerdy kids who are always reading as much as I can, not really going out to play so much. So because I've been a big reader, I think I've had a lot of inspiration from a lot of very well-known authors.
Right.
But what has been truly inspiring to me is that the moment I sort of put out the word, hey, I'm writing a book and I'm looking to self-publish, I've had so many local authors, those writing in science fiction, reach out to me, and I've actually made very good friends with some of them, and some of them self-publish as well. And we've created sort of this very lovely support network, and everyone's very generous with the information that they learned and whatever their findings are, and that has been truly fantastic.
And you've mentioned your husband about 3 times so far. So
My biggest fan.
Is he really?
He is. He was the first person to read the book, and he read the book, and he is sort of a harsh critic. So I was very nervous when he read the book. Of course, he told me it was lovely, and I didn't quite believe him because he's my husband. He's supposed to, be nice to me.
That's some sort of God-given right.
I think so. Yes, it would be terrible if he wasn't nice to me. But he is, and no. So he read the book and he really liked it. And then
let's show the book to our viewers here. And this is what? Widely available?
It's available at the Barefoot Bookshop.
Right.
And I'm told it will be available in Odell shortly as well. Okay. And since the award, I've had a few other bookshops get in touch with me also. Good. So hopefully in the next month or so, it should be easily available.
Well, who designed the cover?
Romel. Arumugam, I think his last name is. He is a very talented graphic designer. I think he did the TEDx Butterfly a few years ago and things like that.
So your husband's there to read this and tell you. Did he read it after you finished, or did you give him bits and pieces to read as you wrote?
I gave him the first draft. So after I had really finished the story as much as I could. I did make some changes after that. But
is that you make changes because he told you to, or he suggested it?
He did actually tell me 1 or 2 things. Some of the plot wasn't as tightly knit, I think, as the final product is at that time. So yeah, definitely. So
this book is about, it's another world.
It is. It's set in a make-believe world called Mliss.
What made you go into this make-believe world? Were you not happy in this world?
I'm not going to answer that, but I am going to say that no, I had this story in my mind and this certain plot that needed to unfold, and it's science fiction. So our world as it is couldn't really accommodate this plot, so it needed this backdrop. And that's all it was at first. It was just a backdrop to accommodate the story. But then as it went on and I started building on the layers of this world, I sort of really fell in love with it, and I realized, this is something that truly inspires me and truly interests me, is to think of the different layers and the fabric of a society and how to sort of build it all in together.
In your formative years, how arty were you then?
How arty was I? Let's put it this way. I started writing my first book when I was about 9 or 10.
All right.
My mom, she was great. She was so supportive. She was like, "Yes, you write that, darling. Like, you go on." It was terrible. I think
What was it? Was it like a diary?
No, it was a mystery novel.
Oh, really?
It was a total Famous Five ripoff, featuring me and my cousins.
Right.
But yeah, I've always loved to write. It's been, sort of diaries and things like you said, short stories, a few poems. But I did take a pretty long, I think, break from it, somewhere towards the end of school maybe and through university. I had A few negative experiences with, I think specifically one teacher told me that I'm not a very good writer.
Really?
So yes.
Can you track that teacher down now?
Oh, possibly. I wouldn't want to just go and be like, you know.
Well, we could send the book. Was it a female teacher?
Yes, it
we
was.
We could send her a book.
I could. I suppose I could.
I don't think. What do you think now, miss?
Oh, no. I don't think she realized that she was being harsh. But to me, because I loved writing so much, it was...
She said?
Probably about 16, I think. Yeah, 15 or 16, something like that.
Well, grown up enough to understand what she was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I've always... how do I put this? Writing has always been something very, very personal to me. So... this is the first time I've written something creative anywhere for the public forum. So I was incredibly anxious just even about this. So at that time I was like, okay, fine, someone's telling me I'm bad, I must not be very good then. And I did sort of take a break from it. But then as I sort of got a little older and matured, I did realize that this is something that gave me a lot of joy to do. So I wrote, but I didn't write thinking that I wanted to publish a book at all. I was just writing bits and pieces.
When you started writing the other one, what was in your mind? Was it because you just wanted to get this, you wanted to solve this puzzle, and so you had to write it? Or was it because you got, well, I'm going to write a book here?
I never set off thinking I'm going to write a book.
Right.
It was just bits and pieces that came together. It was sort of dotted between the chapters of these books are little sort of notes that are in a different typeface and things like that, that are reflections that tie into the story. And that's what I initially started writing, these reflections. And they weren't meant to be a part of a book. They were just reflections that I had. And then what I did was I sort of took these emotions and I delegated these emotions to certain characters, and then these characters sort of started coming about. And my husband and I, we constantly used to have this great debate, the nature versus nurture debate. Are people the way they are because of biological reasons, or are they that way because of the way they were raised and their surroundings?
And what was the common consensus? Which one?
We have no common consensus, but which is why we debate on it. But it was sort of to try and answer this question that came about.
So one of those questions, one of the components of your debate would have been whether people are what they are because of the environment they were brought up in. Is that, are you veering towards that, or is there
a little bit? At its core, this story is a mystery.
Right.
There is a mystery because I am personally a big fan of traditional whodunit detective stories. So there is a murder that needs to be solved, and these three characters from very different walks of life are sort of thrown together and forced to interact with each other in order to solve this mystery. And yeah, I think that's about all I should say without giving out too much of the plot.
You've self-published.
Yes.
What about marketing, distribution? What about all that?
So I didn't go into this fully prepared.
Right.
So when you are self-published, I knew there was a marketing component involved with this, which I should have considered a little bit more closely, because that's not what I want to do. I just want to write. But unfortunately, that's not how it works.
You've got this other operative, haven't you, in the form of your husband?
Yeah, making him market to my book.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is. He's definitely been pushing the word out.
He's been on our program as well.
Yes, he has, but he hasn't spoken about my book, has he? No. See,
Okay.
poor job marketing.
Right, yeah. well, you need to have words about that. But what do your parents say?
They're very proud. My parents and my husband's parents have been very, very supportive. They are just so excited. I actually told them not to come to Gaul because that was how sure I was that I was not going to win.
Right.
I was like, it's just going to be a waste of you guys' time, and you know, you're going to be so bored because you know they're not huge readers or anything like that. So I was like, it's not going to be fun for you to come down to Gaul. So let it be. And they were all so upset with me when I did call and tell them that I want them. Like, we could have come. Why didn't you let us? So yeah, everyone's been very supportive. I couldn't do it. I do quite a lot of other things apart from write. And I couldn't have done it without the support that I get from my family and my husband's family. So.
On that wonderful note, let's go for a short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline.
With Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back to Newsline, where we have the award-winning author, Amanda J, with us. That sounds absolutely marvelous, when you say that. The award-winning Amanda J.
Wow.
Do you know, once again, many congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
You must be on top of the world.
I am very, very happy, yes.
Well done, it's wonderful. And on behalf of the network, thank you for having chosen us.
Oh, no, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.
And all good wishes to you on that. Now then, you won. Your teacher told you that you won't make it, but this is like the Beatles, You imagine the guy who turned the Beatles down, right? And so the history is littered with this sort of thing. But I don't know, some of these teachers at some of these schools have missed out on these politicians. But I wish they'd told them at the beginning, listen, you guys, don't go into politics, you ain't going to be any good. But that's another story. Are you going to write any stories about politicians in the make-believe world of politics?
There are definitely political elements in the next book.
There you go.
But nothing centering on politicians, per se.
Will there be a parliament, and will there be speakers and prime ministers and oppositions and corrupt people?
I think we're veering towards something else now.
That's true. I'm trying that. Oh, and then will there be a central bank, and will there be a bond? And will there be central express?
I will say this, there will be a robbery.
Well, there you go. But you do know about bonds.
I know a little bit about bonds.
James Bond.
Do I know about James Bond? Yes.
And Brooke Bond. Everybody knows about Brooke Bond.
Brooke Bond?
Brooke Bond, you see, you're giving your age away, because Brooke Bond is tea.
Oh,
it used to be tea.
Oh, right, okay.
But anyway, we will stay clear of that. Sorry. Okay. Now then, tell me, are you able to tell us a little bit about the next book?
I haven't fully wrapped it up yet, but it will not. I get asked a lot if it will be a sequel to this. It will not, but it will still take place in this world, because, like I said, I created this world and I ended up falling in love with it. But it will be set probably about 10 years in the future. And so even with this book,
only 10 years into the future.
10 years into the future of where this story ends.
Okay. Here's me hoping it's going to be 10 years from now.
Oh, no.
Because it'll be just about time when people involved in all scams will be going into prison. Right, okay. Go on.
All right, so the story will be set 10 years from the end of that story. And we'll focus on a completely different set of characters. The world building, like I said, it will still take place in the same world, but there will be a bit of a comment on, at the end of this book, there's a sequence of events that happen, and I'm not going to say much more than that, but it would leave people feeling, I would believe, quite hopeful. And when the story picks up 10 years from now, it's sort of what has happened to that hopeful feeling that I'm sure many of us can probably resonate with. Sometimes you have this big, amazing event that you feel would be life-changing and would make things a whole lot better. And 10 years from now, or 10 years from that event, would people still feel that way? Would they still feel hopeful? Would they have gotten disheartened by things not changing as quickly as they would like it to change, and so on?
You said that I was veering away from, or veering towards something else. Well, with all due respect, your new book seems to be...
I'm just talking about hopefulness. That's what it is.
But that's what we need, don't we? if there's no hope, there's no life. So life is about hope.
Yes, definitely.
Indeed. You're going to be voting in the local elections?
I believe so, yes.
Right. Okay. Well, do think about it. Now tell me, in this book, in the other one, who or what is steampunk?
Good. So steampunk is a subgenre of this sci-fi genre.
Right.
But when people say sci-fi, they expect, intergalactic, alien warfare, that sort of thing, Star Trek, Star Wars, or what have you.
Yeah.
Steampunk is not like that, in that there's nothing that takes place in outer space or anything.
Okay.
In fact, it would fall more into the fantasy category than even the science fiction category. Steampunk sort of draws on elements of the Industrial Revolution and sort of Victorian England at the time, so a lot of clockwork. Mliss is in fact a clockwork city, a city that's powered on through cogs and pegs and clockwork per se, cabling and all of that. And so that's where this sort of genre, that's the premise behind this genre. But like I said, even though this is categorized as sort of a steampunk book, the setting is just a backdrop for the story to unfold. My focus when writing this was really sort of dissecting and understanding the emotions of these characters and how they would interact in certain situations.
And what about, is it the sort of book is it the sort of subject that lends itself to a film?
I would think so, but I think most authors would think so.
Okay, so have you had any offers yet?
Oh no, I wish.
Really?
No, of course not. I think when
it's only a few days since you won, anyway.
It's been a few days since I won.
The
yes.
information is probably trickling along all over.
Of course, but I think when you write a book, I think in this day and age where marketing and sales are such a big driving force in the publication industry, I think getting offered a film deal is almost sort of one of those pinnacles.
Right.
So, that would totally be a game changer, but I haven't had anyone knocking on my door yet, sadly.
But tell me about you and your hubby were living abroad, right?
Yes, we were. We were living in the UK.
And you made a conscious decision to come back.
Well, actually, we came on holiday and we never left.
Right.
Are
you still having a holiday? That's the question.
I wish we were on holiday. We work too much. No, we always had this idea that we would come back. I lived in the US before,
Right.
and then after I got married, I moved to the UK. So I was away quite a bit. And we always had this idea that we would come back to Sri Lanka and sort of maybe try and set up something here. And we were playing around with this idea a lot. And this one time we came back on holiday, and I remember we looked at each other and we're like, do we really want to go back? We love our country. We love being here. So we were very hopeful, very bright-eyed and hopeful.
And how bright is that light now?
Good question. I'll start off by saying this. A lot of people, when I was in the US, used to ask me this question as well. Is this your perfect place to live? Is this the perfect place? Because they sell you this idea of sort of the American dream, and a lot of Sri Lankans too have this idea that you go overseas and everything is rosy and perfect and wonderful. It most certainly is not. Every place that you live in will have its own unique set of challenges, and it will also have its own unique set of advantages. So I think Sri Lanka has its own unique combination of the both of them.
But for your husband, your heart was here.
Yes, I think from the start it was. So it wasn't a difficult decision, and it wasn't.
You had family here and friends.
We did. Our families were here, so it made sense for us. It wasn't some sort of. People sort of ask us this, like we made some sort of big sacrifice. We don't feel like we have.
But there must be people who think like that, because a lot of people will will say to you, I go to, if you go to any of these hotels and so on, you talk to people who work there, and especially the young ones, and say, well, what are your plans in the future? Oh, I want to go abroad. Why? Get more money. Really? Yes. So everyone wants to leave, and then you've come back here. So the obvious question is, how do you feel?
Oh, wow, that's a very loaded question. How do I feel? Like I said...
Are there days, Amanda, when you and your husband think, damn, I wish we didn't come here?
I think there have been some trying days where we have felt that way. I think it's only normal to sort of question sometimes. But similarly, there were days when we were over there that we thought, hey, why are we here? Why aren't we
Or are
back
there
home?
days when both of you think, hang on, this country is a bit like this make-believe world that you've written?
Certainly some things that happen do veer towards fiction.
Yeah.
But look, at the end of the day, we can all sit around and complain about the things that are going wrong. Or we can see what we can do to positively contribute to make things right again. So we all have our, how do I say this, almost departments of where we can sort of do that. And I think we've picked our respective fights to fight, or our respective battles. And as long as there are people that are willing to fight those battles, I don't think all hope is lost, right? So.
And both you and your husband have the commitment to make it better for you, and therefore...
Well, better for not just
better for the
ourselves,
country.
I think. I don't think we were ever really driven to just set up ourselves personally. If we wanted to, if that was the intention, then we would have most likely just stayed there.
Right.
Like you mentioned, plenty of opportunities to earn well over there and things like that. The reason we came back is because we thought we could positively contribute and try and make something significant, and not just obviously
And
with
you're
the
still
writing.
thinking that, right? You haven't changed that?
No, of course not. I mean, at the end of the day, I am an optimist and I am hopeful, and I feel that we need to hold on to those things in order to sort of persevere and move forward.
Amanda, you've had you've been such a wonderful guest here that the half an hour has just disappeared.
Flown by.
It's flown by. It's gone to the other place. Amanda J, award-winning author. Thank you very much for being on Newsline. We wish you very well.
Thank you so much.
Come and show us your next book.
Sure.
And keep the faith. And we're ever so glad that you've come back to Sri Lanka and that you are making it happen here.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
And do give our best wishes to your husband, the marketing manager.
I will.
And that's it. Thank you very much. And that's the way it was on Newsline this morning. And it was a recording because it's 70 years since we got independence, and today is that holiday. And we'll have a program tomorrow, which we will look at where we are 70 years on. Take care. God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukut Ali.